Welcome to a place where hearts unwind, infinite threads that gently bind, love and compassion in every line. Together we rise through space and time.
Welcome back to Infinite Threads. I'm your host, Bob. This whole week, we've been walking a quieter path, one without labels, doctrines, or divisions. A path that doesn't demand agreement, only awareness. A path that trusts you to feel your way through instead of being told where to land. Today we arrive at something tender and bold. Love without labels. Not the kind that's conditional, and not the kind that waits until someone earns it. Not the kind that demands we agree first. But the kind that sees through the costume, that honors the spark, even when the surface is hard to love. And most of all, the kind that doesn't need a name to be real. Let's start with this. Love isn't being nice. Being nice can be a mask. It can be performative, convenient, even manipulative. Love is not that. Love is fierce, clear, rooted. It doesn't turn away from truth, but it refuses to turn truth into a weapon. Love is the choice not to reduce someone down to their worst moment or their loudest belief. It's the refusal to flatten a human being into one trait, one vote, one opinion, one mistake, or one chapter. Love knows that you can see someone without agreeing with them, that you can honor the humanity of someone whose story would never be your own, that you can leave space between you and another person without leaving judgment there too. We live in a time when everyone wants to know where you stand, what team you're on, what tribe, what angle, what hashtag. The pressure is constant. Declare yourself. Pick a side. Prove you belong. And sometimes that's important. We do need to speak clearly about harm, about justice, about the value of every life. But clarity isn't the same thing as cruelty, and love doesn't need a team to have strength. Love can stand alone and still be unshakable. Here's something that might stretch you. Love doesn't care if the person deserves it. It just is. Not because the other person earned it, but because you decided to be someone who sees the sacred even when it's hidden. Love in its truest form is not about how lovable they are. It's about how aligned you are. Aligned with compassion, with truth, with reality. Not the surface reality, but the reality behind the eyes. That every person you encounter is more than what they show. More than their defense mechanisms, more than their worst tweet, and more than their loudest protest or their most painful silence. Love without labels is the kind that doesn't need you to be the same in order to be seen. When you stop reducing people to labels, something wild happens. You start to feel again. You start to get curious. You start to wonder what happened to them instead of deciding what's wrong with them. You start asking, what has this person survived? What have they never been taught? What pain are they still carrying that shaped how they speak, vote, lash out, or retreat? And no, that doesn't excuse harm, but it does open a doorway. Because you're no longer playing the game of us versus them. You're no longer deciding who's in and who's out. You're remembering that we've all been them to someone. And love is the bridge we forgot we could build. Some of you may be thinking, but Bob, what about boundaries? Don't I have the right to distance myself from someone harmful? Yes, absolutely. Love without labels is not love without boundaries. In fact, true love often requires boundaries because it doesn't enable harm. It doesn't stay silent in the face of abuse. But even in setting the boundary, it doesn't strip the other person of their humanity. You can say no with love. You can walk away with love. You can hold space for truth and healing, even as you protect your peace. That's the beauty of love. That's aligned, not performative. It doesn't need to shame or control. It doesn't need to broadcast itself. It just is. Here's a practice for today. Find someone you've mentally reduced. Not someone who's hurt you deeply, not someone you're in active recovery from. That's sacred ground and it deserves its own care. But someone you've just written off. Someone you see through a filter. Oh, she's like that. He's one of them. They always, always. Now take a breath and ask yourself, what am I not seeing? Not what are they right about, not how do I agree with them, but just what am I missing when I reduce this person to a label? Because behind every label is a soul, and behind every soul is a story. And stories don't fit in hashtags, guys. Maybe this sounds too soft, too vague, or too idealistic. But let me ask you something. Has hating people ever made you more free? Has judgment ever helped you sleep? Has reducing someone to a category ever made your heart lighter? I'm not saying love is easy. I'm saying love is worth the cost, because when you stop labeling, you start listening, you stop performing, and you start being present. You stop rehearsing your defenses and you start letting silence speak. And in that silence, sometimes you hear a voice you didn't expect. Your own. The version of you that doesn't need to be right to be whole. The version of you that loves because it's your nature, not your obligation. The version of you that remembers. It remembers, I don't need to win this moment. I need to live aligned with love. So here's where we end this week. With something simple, something radical. Love doesn't require belief. It only requires sight. Sight to see someone without reducing them. To speak without destroying. To protect without punishing. To disagree without dehumanizing. That's the love that changes things, guys. That's the love that transforms, and that's the love that makes all the other love safe to give again. Not because it comes with a label, but because it comes with truth. You are allowed to love people you don't understand. You are allowed to care for people you don't agree with. And you are allowed to honor the sacred even when others don't see it. Because that kind of love, it's not weakness. It's clarity. It's courage. It's who you were before the labels were ever taught to you. Thank you, guys. Thank you for walking with me this week. This path beyond the vessel, beyond the label, beyond the noise isn't always easy, but it leads somewhere beautiful. Back to yourself, back to love, and back to the place where everything real begins. I'll see you in the next thread, guys. I love you very, very, very much. And you know what I need you to do. Go out and pass that on. All right? Later, Gators. Bye-bye.